Let's get ready to rumble!
Good finish to the round for the Mexican Monster.
A monster mutilating mimics with much madness.
I just believe that this is the right time. In terms of why the fight excites me, it's because you got two fantastic, entertaining fighters. This will not be a Tom and Jerry situation. This will be a Tom and Tom situation.
That's reference to Turkey Al Sheikh's tweet of the weekend, wasn't it? I don't want Tom and Jerry fights. So that's Tom and Tom.
This is Tom and Tom. You know, two guys, and I was listening to an interview from Jose Benavidez Sr.,
the father,
and he said Anthony Yarde is their hardest fight. I echo those words. We are going to prepare like we've always prepared, diligently, and I expect fight of the decade.
Didn't go to plan for Tunde and Yarde. A lot of people are lighting up Tunde, saying Yarde needs to get rid of him, etc. I just want to know from the people who are saying that is what could Tunde have done? We have two world champions, male world champions, in Great Britain. At one stage, there was a lot more. I think, was it 14 or 16? Not too long ago. This is more endemic on professional boxing trainers in the UK, the culture. I heard Dominic Ingle, when Boxing King Media asked him who could Anthony Yarde get in there, because Yarde said they're thinking of bringing in an extra person post-fight to make the camp more effective, lions in the camp. And Dominic Ingle put his name forward. Well, I believe that Dominic Ingle would have been just as incapable of training Yarde to beat the Mexican Monster as Tunde. Tunde actually used to help train fighters in the Mayweather gym. His worst mistake was coming back to the United Kingdom. His worst mistake. Because now, you're basically a big fish in a small pond. Especially in the time period when he came back to the UK. You should be looking to be the next Eddie Futch, Manny Stewart. You should be looking to do that. Tunde was there in a very good period. American boxing wasn't in the state that it is now. He probably thought he'd get his education out there, come back to the UK, and he wouldn't be under the same intense competition to get the pick of the best fighters. He could stand out more in the UK than the US. I'm trying to understand the tactics though. Were they trying to bait David Benavidez into believing that Yarde was going to slug with him, and then, like Nigel Benn did against Henry Wharton, rather than slug with Henry, like Nigel promised, he outboxed him? Or was the plan to engage David Benavidez in a war? But Yarde realized that the monster was too strong, too aggressive for that. I don't know what to believe.
Were you expecting Anthony to let his hands go in the later rounds? Was that half the plan? Because it looked like he was holding back. I mean, is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, definitely, because I think it was round 5. I said, you know what you're doing? He said, yeah, I know what I'm doing. So, the plan was to come on strong later on in the fight. But, sometimes the best laid plans don't go to plans.
Maybe they got heads up that Benavidez is struggling at the weight. He's talking about moving up to cruiser to fight Zerdo for the 2 straps he's got, which would be a huge fight on Golden Boy, all Mexican clash. And I think Benavidez is having issues with the weight. And Yarde was frustrating him a little, boxing and trying to counter. But Yarde found it hard to dominate the center of the ring, volunteering to fight off the ropes, and he's just not skilled enough to do that. He had his moments. But Benavidez, he got not so much frustrated with Yarde, he got frustrated with the chess game, and he just wanted to fight. He didn't want to chase Yarde around the ring, and maybe that's what Tunde and Anthony wanted him to do, gambling that he's tight on the scale. And he's not going to want to chase Yarde. He's going to want to stand in the middle of the ring and bang. In the 4th round, where they got in that exchange and Yarde locked up David's right arm, but Benavidez's left hand was free. And all the people saying, well, that's illegal. No, it's not illegal. I've seen referees tell fighters to punch with their free hand if they're locked up and tied up in a clinch. You're supposed to punch with your free hand. You're not supposed to wait for the referee to unlock you. Yarde could have released himself from the clinch and moved, but he opted to stay there with his right hand up and tried to block the 14 or so punches that went in. You're not going to block all of them punches. Probably not just a UK problem, but why are coaches not teaching their fighters how to lock up properly? Either lock up both arms properly, or you're likely to get slapped around with a free hand. His other option was to use his free hand and fight fire with fire. Swing back. And at that point there, David lost a little respect for Yarde, and the fight was finished from a psychological standpoint. Yarde looked a little green in that exchange. And there's nothing, I don't think, much British coaches could do to prepare any fighter in them circumstances. How many times do Mexicans come over here and batter our flyweights and bantamweights and shit? It's hard to believe Benavidez is only 28. Yarde is 34. Benavidez looked way more savvy than Yarde, despite him being the younger fighter. Way more savvy. Like, I've done a little search, and they're talking about how Benavidez was pulling Morrell's guard down with his hand the entire fight. Not a single warning from the ref. The tactics against Morrell led some to think that the fight was fixed. Some people rebutted the claim and said Lomachenko does it. I don't know if that's entirely illegal. It depends how you do it. They call it the dark arts. The British boxing coaches have to get a little more savvy. I was looking at David Benavidez during one of the undercard fights. They went to his dressing room, and while he wasn't a Teletubby or anything like that, there was rolls of flesh there. He wasn't shredded like Yarde or anything like that. Yarde came in there looking jacked, but his physicality was never a factor in this fight. And he either was incapable of making it a factor, or he didn't try and make it a factor. David basically bullied him. David has a good jab and a very strong right hand. And I think a lot of people are now realizing he's a lot better than some of us thought. He's better than what I thought. And I'm not just going off the Yarde performance, but he's 31-0 now, 25 inside the distance. And he's got some decent bodies on his record. Hasn't broke the pound for pound, but this was his most impressive performance at light heavy. Is Yarde a shot fighter at 34? He hasn't scored nothing like near a knockdown in his last 3 fights. This was his only fight for the year. He outpointed Lyndon Arthur at the Tottenham Stadium in April. This was the 3rd fight with Lyndon. The 2nd fight, he battered Lyndon. This one here, he struggled. He struggled to put Lyndon under manners. It was a war, life and death for 12 rounds. The fight before that, a standard European fighter, Vilkans, took him the distance pretty easy. Yarde had him down in the 1st, and then after that, never came close to really hurting the guy. Recently, Vilkans was stopped in a round by an unbeaten prospect who might be good, for all I know. He might be good. Yarde was supposed to be the natural light heavy on Saturday, but you would have never guessed it, looking at the way Benavidez bullied him and manhandled him at times. And you know something? I left the stream on Saturday deflated at Yarde's performance. Even though I picked Benavidez to win, I left deflated. And with Yarde, you know what it is? It's the optical illusion of seeing someone jacked and as athletic at that, not being able to get better results at elite level. He didn't have much amateur experience. We've got to take that into account. But then again, neither did Fabio Wardley. 5th round, Yarde, riled up by Benavidez manhandling him in that last exchange in the 4th, seemed to want to take the fight to Benavidez. So now he's actively trying to push Benavidez back. Benavidez, I'm not going to say he sticks his chin out there, but if you bang him on the chin, he's looking to fire back straight away.
How hard did Anthony Yarde hit in there tonight?
He really hit hard, to be honest. I don't think like that, bro. I think as a fighter, you always have to think that people don't hit hard, so I'm comfortable with taking punches. Boxing is about how hard you can get hit, you can come back. So I don't really think he hit hard at all.
Yarde doesn't have the same poker face that Benavidez has. When Yarde is under pressure, under stress during the fight, like when his right eye started to swell up and he was getting fatigued, he was open-mouthed, he was dabbing at the eye, and you could see the stress on his face. And the poker face was very important for fighters like Joe Louis and other fighters, not to show their opponents that they're getting to them. But Benavidez is the type who feeds off that, can see that you're mentally breaking. I'm getting to you. My body shots are making your face make certain expressions. Every time I land that jab, bam, I can see your energy bar dipping. Yarde tried to trade with Benavidez, but broke it off very quickly. Came under heavy fire. Then he retreated to what was familiar for him, and that was the ropes. And Benavidez non-stop punching until Yarde was on the canvas and another left hand went in there while Yarde was down. Yarde said that's the only punch that hurt him throughout the fight. He said that really buzzed him. He got back up bravely. The referee held up 2 fingers. He penalised Benavidez 2 points for 1 infringement. Is that normal? The referee waved the fight back into play. Maybe Yarde should have asked for extra time. Maybe he should have done. Benavidez was in the ascendancy. The body shots were terrifying. And the left hook that finished it, Yarde did well to hold his feet, but it shook him to his boots and the referee wisely jumped in. I think the loss may affect Tunde's confidence as a trainer more than it will Anthony Yarde. Yarde will still believe he can win a big one and become champion. But Tunde, he's the one coming under fire. A lot of people are putting this down to Tunde's coaching and some of the stuff he says that gets a lot of people's back up, but people are easily agitated. Tunde actually did a good job working Yarde's corner. When Yarde's nose was busted, and his nose was busted pretty bad, especially in that 5th where he tried to get aggressive with Benavidez, he told Yarde, don't blow your nose, because if you blow your nose when it's bleeding, you're likely to blow up both your eyes. So he knows what he's doing in there. But perhaps if Yarde is going to have a last throw at the dice, perhaps now's the time. Look at Jack Catterall, he's 32. He's split with his long-term trainer, Jamie Moore. He's with Bosie Edwards. And he looked pretty good against Echo Esserman last time out. He looked pretty good. And there's still a lot of work to go for Jack. But, you know, he's relocated to Philly because he knows it's going to take sacrifice if he is to fulfill his dream and become a world champion. I don't think Yarde necessarily has to split with Tunde. Maybe they should both relocate back to where Tunde was training in America, Mayweather Gym, in the Midwest. Hook up with Dollar Bill and Devin. Tunde's close with them guys. Tunde's coaching is more suited to the environment across the pond than over here. What Yarde is trying to do as a fighter is more suited to what they do across the pond than over here. You know, relocating, it worked for Nigel Benn after he lost to Michael Watson. It worked for Dennis Andrews. After he lost his world title to Thomas Hearns, he went over to Detroit and became a 2-time light heavyweight champion. He resided in Hackney, where Anthony Yarde was born, and he was never supposed to be champion. 2 contrasting figures. There was no careful matchmaking for Andrews. He was just thrown into the furnace, you know what I'm saying? When he was a novice, they threw him in there with the heavyweight champion, the British heavyweight champion, David Pearce. Dennis got knocked out, but Dennis just came back, won the British titles, the European titles, and just kept going at it. And then on a Frank Warren card at Pickett's Lock, he beat J.B. Williamson and became champion. Yeah. But the difference between Dennis and Anthony Yarde and the likes of Joshua Buatsi, Dennis, how can I say it not to insult Buatsi and Yarde? Where he wasn't coming out saying, well, I'm the A side of this fight between me and my British rival and all this crap. Dennis knew you had to fight for everything he got and fight hard. Buatsi was in Riyadh on Saturday and he was talking like he was next up to face Benavidez. Now Benavidez is moving up to cruiser. But I didn't feel that Buatsi believed he could win that fight. And I don't believe he believes he can win it. I don't believe he believes it. Zach Parker couldn't do half the rounds that Anthony Yarde did on Saturday. Zach Parker couldn't go 4 rounds with Benavidez. Benavidez knocks Buatsi out. Knocks him out. Like he knocked out Yarde.
I'm sure you were keeping an eye on the main event tonight. Is that something that you would want next?
Look, we were told whoever wins my fight with Parker will get a crack at this. So make sure you interview Warren and you pull him up on it. So, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to it.
Do you believe it happens next?
I really hope so.
Well, Josh, thank you very much and hopefully catch up soon.
You've got to get your country behind you. A lot of the country believe that Joshua Buatsi should rematch Zach Parker, or at the least challenge Lyndon Arthur for the European title. Another option is get that long-awaited Anthony Yarde fight out the way. The only British light heavyweight right now who should be talking about potentially fighting in a light heavyweight world title fight next is Callum Smith, and no one else. What, is Turkey going to back Buatsi versus Benavidez? No. And the issue with Buatsi and Yarde is sometimes Their ambitions are not realistic to their credentials and accomplishments. And we just got to be honest about that.
Yeah, it's already signed May 2nd. Me versus Zurdo Ramirez. And like I said, I'm not waiting for nobody. You know, I'm not making my own lane, and I'm achieving my greatness.
So both of them would rather fight each other rather than unify in their weight classes. And one day the boxing fans are going to come to terms with being undisputed doesn't matter to a large percentage of fighters over the money they can get for an all-Mexican showdown between Benavidez and Zurdo. It is what it is. Yarde, he's not impressed.
They're obviously ducking. It's very obvious that they don't want to fight. It's like, fuck, you want to keep getting better and you want to keep leveling up and prove you're the best. These guys see it other ways. Who knows what they're chasing? What's Zurdo trying to prove? Does that prove he's the best in the fucking cruiserweight division? I don't think so. You know, he's fighting a guy coming up 2 weight categories. What does this mean? You know, you tell me. What am I meant to say to this? If he wants to be the best, he's got to beat the best. He's definitely not doing that, so.
Listening to what Benavidez had to say, he's not going to give up that WBC or WBA 175-pound belt. He's not going to give it up. He's going to move up and hold on to the belts. The sanctioning bodies are likely to let him do that. They're not looking at how much times Jai has accused his rivals of ducking and how much he wants to unify. They couldn't care less about it either. The WBC are making Badu Jack run back the Noel McCalkian fight, a fight that no one's really interested in, a fight that most people, well maybe not most, but I thought that Badu Jack won. Why didn't they encourage a unification between Badu and Jai and let McCalkin fight the winner? Benavidez wants to move up to another weight class without unifying a strap. There's no way he goes up to 200 and comes back down to 175. No way. Give up the strap and go take your fight with Zurdo. But don't hold up 2 weight classes with 1 fight. Come on now.
Boxing.
Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
The only silver lining out of the situation is if Benavidez doesn't want to get involved at 175, it's likely Turkey is going to really push for Bivol Beterbiev 3. Can't complain about that if we get the same level of entertainment as we did in the first 2.